What's going on, traders? Coming at you with my April 2020 recap. Going to go ahead and do a month review here on my month. Made about 52,000. And don't let the monthly total fool you at the end because I wasn't too happy with my trading this month. I mean, obviously I closed out the last day on a banger and my last week was really good, but this week were a little bit questionable, and I definitely made a lot of mistakes. I was trading a lot this month. I actually made 176 trades, which equals out to 8.5 trades per day. So I was definitely over trading. And if you look here, my Mondays are just actually red on my Mondays on the month. So that's something to look out for next month is I can't just show up on Mondays and just try to, go for goal from half field. I need to kind of pass with my teammates. I need to warm up. I need to stretch. You know what I mean? I can't just go out there and start throwing size around everywhere because that's what I did on this day. I just started throwing size around at the open and just got absolutely destroyed because the positions went against me for the first like 30 minutes, and I was trying to nurse my losses. So this was just a complete mess day. And this day is only about two days of my gains, which is an okay loss to take, I guess. But my red days are usually relatively small, and that's how I like to trade. I don't like to have these big red days. I only risk about $500 per play, so to lose 5,500 and specifically 5 grand on one play is just pretty unacceptable to me. And I did it last month too, where I took $6,700 loss. So definitely something that I'm going to be working on here in May is taking a smaller size on Monday to kind of gear myself up for the week, unless it's a super ideal play and I've been ready for it. But if I don't have any plans on the weekend, I'm not just going to come into Monday and start throwing size everywhere at the open and just get absolutely destroyed like I did on the 20th. And these days too, trading a bunch and ending up break even is just not really worth it. I'm happy with the 27th. I made 1,400 that day, and I just was trading relatively small. I don't think I traded too much, so that was really good. So that's going to be something I'm going to watch out in for May is my Monday trading. And other than that, I'm really happy. I mean, look at this bulk load of gains here. Batting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5K days, and then had a really nice day on the last day of the month where I got short a decent sized position in UAVS with a fairly tight stop, and I'd already had a cushion on the stock. So I'm going to get into that trade. I'm going to get into my mRNA loss. And those are the only two trades that I'm going to review this month since I can't make my videos too long or YouTube will not cooperate and upload it. Like I know Kyle, he makes a lot more detailed of videos. So go ahead and check out his videos since he's kind of like my tab nowadays. Me and Kyle trade on the phone very often. So me and him are taking a lot of the same trades. So I would recommend going to watch his video as well. I'm going to link that in the description for you guys. So my average win was 736 compared to last month where I was making nearly double that of my average win, and my average loss was about the same. So definitely over trading, like I was saying. As you can see there, I'm just taking too many trades, so my average loss is taking a hit. But I don't think it's a problem if you throw out a feeler on something and lose $50, make $50. That just kind of is what I call dabbling in and just kind of letting the trade prove to you that it then deserves your size, and then you can kind of scale in. And that's kind of how I've gone about my trading. That's why my trading has gone up. As long as I can eliminate big losses, I'm okay with taking a lot of trades as long as the market is there, because my kind of personality is I have a hard time waiting for that super ideal play. And I have bigger accounts, so I can afford to kind of dabble into a bunch of things and kind of see where I should be focusing. Let the stock tell you where you should be focusing. There's no reason you should ever really fight anything. If something's not working, try to get out for as close to break even as possible and move on to the next potential opportunity. And that's just kind of my mindset all the time is I'm not the best at exiting positions. I exit stuff way too quickly all the time, and I don't stick to my risks. I change risks all the time, but that's okay because if the stock just isn't giving me good vibes, I will emotionally trade it and I'll stop out, and that's fine because I will keep my losses small. And I can move on to the next idea throughout the day is I want to be focusing on entries. Okay, entries are where I want to be focusing on because if I'm able to nail a play from my first entry and then use the profits that I made as a cushion and then scale because I have a cushion of profits to use, that's kind of how I trade the best is when I'm green on a name is I trade the best. I know it's probably not, I'm not a robot, guys. When I'm red on a ticker, I'm going to trade it emotional. That's just fact, and I know it. But when I'm green on a ticker, I'm able to read the action a lot more clear. I know how to size in to where I won't be affected emotionally at certain levels if it goes against me. So it's all about, to me, is getting on the first entry on a stock. I like to be either really small where it can go 300% against me and it will affect me, but I'm just saying like it won't blow me up. So it's just starting in small and ideally it going in your favor immediately because that's usually when you'll be able to scale in and really capitalize on a big move. So to get into, actually before I get into that, it's just kind of crazy. I made my win percent was 64 again, and now that is the third month in a row where my win percent is 64. So I guess that's my number, 64% in this crazy market is what I win. Keeping my short around 70 and long around 55 probably in the monthly review. Actually, I haven't even looked, so we'll get into that. So here we go. So these are all my trades sorted from largest winner to largest loser. Trading my NASDAQs about 65% of the time. Actually went short a little bit more this month, and that doesn't surprise me because the more I trade, the more I realize that I'm a short seller. I just think it's easier to find overvalued junk than undervalued gold. It's just too hard for me to know which stock's going to be the one to spike up huge. But when these stocks extend themselves a huge amount and they give you a good risk reward position to get into on the backside, they can pay you massively because you know that the stock's crap and you know that the stock's going to have a big fade because it's so extended. So that's just why I prefer shorting. Here we go. My win percents on NASDAQ 66, OTC 61. Oh, actually, my long win percent was really good this month, 63. My short win percent's a little bit lower than that 70 because I'm shorting more, obviously. So I took less ideal plays. So that's obviously why my win percent took a little bit of a hit. Overall P&L is at 54.6 before fees. And that's one other thing that I wanted to mention is I definitely paid a little bit more in fees than I had been paying previous months. I had only been paying about $1,000 in borrow fees, but this month's around that 2 to 3K mark. So that's just comes with trading more. As long as I'm not spending 10% of my gains in borrow fees. If I start spending more than 10% of my gains in borrow fees, that's when I know I have a problem. And that's just not acceptable for me. I'm not going to take on that much borrow fees. Like I was saying, 176 trades. And then some other stats here. And as you can see, like I was saying, I took a lot of loss this month. I lost 28,000 in losses throughout all my losses, which is just a lot of money. Like I made a lot, but as you can see here, I lost 10,000 less the previous month and made more. And then this month I lost 10K less as well and made a little bit less. And then this month I lost even less. So it looks like my loss is going up substantially here, about 10K per month, which is a little bit unacceptable. Whereas I want to probably be making around 50 to 100,000 in gross profit, and my gross loss needs to be around 10 to 20,000. So my profit factor took a hit, and it's actually under 3 this month, which isn't great. I just need to be cutting some of these things a little bit quicker, I think. Long profit factor 2.6, short 3.03, and then some other stats here, just making about 12K long, 42,000 short. So as you guys can see, is I did make really good money this month. I mean, UAVS was a really good way to end it, but if I didn't have UAVS there the last day, um, I wouldn't have really traded that well. I mean, you take off 16 grand out of that, and my profit factor really takes a hit. So as you can see, just some decent trading, and then comes down here and just took a few hits here on took a bunch of near $1,000 losses, and then my mRNA loss, and then this loss on Dev here. Other than that, let's get into the pattern performance. So some things I want to note for next month is my NASDAQ longing. I only made 1,500, so I need to be more selective with the trades I'm going to take. I know what patterns I'm profitable on going long, and that is really panic dip buys and not first green days, not breakouts. I'm decent at red to green moves or gap ups after huge sell offs on multi day runners. I kind of understand. And I'm going to be taking the OT Swizzle out of my trading. Now I've traded it for 4 months, and it's netted me a negative 1,000 on a 40 sample size. So that's pretty much good enough for me to throw the towel on that strategy and really just call it quits. I had a really good month dip buying. My dip buyings were on point with Deccan and NMHLY. Was super satisfied. We got a nice level 2 turns on a bunch of names this month, and I didn't even take too much size on all of these dip buys, but even CYDY, they when it gapped up to 3 and pushed to 350 or whatever, and then had the panic to 220. That was a great dip buy as well. So super happy with my dip buys this month. And then my OTC shorts, pretty good. Took an unfortunate loss there on debt, but that's okay. It's part of my process, part of the risk I take. I'm not really taking that into consideration too much on that trading strategy. And then my NASDAQ trading, my NASDAQ shorting, pretty good. My NASDAQ parabolic only made 800 on 13 trades, and I probably put myself at a pretty big risk on some of these names shorting, because this is all front side shorting. So I did develop a rule. That's when I was taking a bunch of losses on front side parabolic shorting this week and this week too, where this week was really good, my numbers wise, but trading wise, I was down big unrealized a bunch of times. So on front side, I use hard stops, and I'm completely okay with it now. I'm not trying. I don't care if I get stopped out into a fake out, because too many times it will keep going against you and it doesn't give you that dip to get out. And then you have to just trade really emotionally and really poorly. So my month really, it wasn't that good compared to previous months. I did make a lot of money, like I was saying, but I lost a lot, guys, and I'm not the best trader out there, and I still have a lot of growing to do. So other than that, not too much else to talk about there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into the charts. mRNA. So basically, the day that I lost big on it was this day right here, and I kind of compare it to when I took my big loss on Turtle Beach, for any of you guys that know, where it's the same kind of thing, where it had this really ugly doji candle here, and then the next day it just absolutely just ripped everybody's face off. And that was kind of a loss that I took there. So let's go back to mRNA. So when these things gap up, and when they gap up substantially and they kind of hold, you can't be thinking that the backside is very likely, because the better these things, if these things can gap up and actually kind of hold their spikes, as you can see, this thing was bought up pretty massively into the close, and just the gap down gave me way too much conviction. And when it's this kind of candle, it's too easy for me to change risk. I mean, at first I was risking green to red, and then I was risking the 48 level, and then I was risking 49, and then I was like, I'll risk the 50 whole number mark. So just moving my risk up because I didn't want to take the loss because it was in a straight up spike. And unfortunately, this thing just basically straight up spiked from 44 to 54 in the first couple of hours, and I just absolutely got blown out. So let's get into the intraday here so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. I don't need a 30-day. I think 15 would be good. So let's get into this. Yeah, so this thing just absolutely just ripped right out of the gate on me. I started shorting it pre-market, and green to red was somewhere around right here. So I started shorting it at 45, and then I was adding some at 47. Then I was adding some here when it looked like kind of it was cracking, and then I just had to stop out right here. I had to stop out because this was just the ultimate stop out, and all I could remember was Turtle Beach after this thing had gotten a 50. So unfortunately, I didn't really know how much I was going to risk when I got into the trade, and I was just kind of dabbling in. On a Monday, I started just throwing size right out of the open, and look what happened. It just went straight up against me, and I wasn't quick enough to react and take off that small starter for a loss around green to red. And obviously the next day it just absolutely dumped on me. So the next day I was a little too timid to really take too much size on it, but I did get a piece of it here and here, and I made about $2,000 back. Or I think I made about $3,000. And then I shorted the balance, and I had lost some because it was holding too well. So I'm just pretty much done with this stock. And another thing I want to take into consideration is trading these expensive stocks, because sometimes they might just not trade like a penny stock that I'm used to. Yeah, it had a perfect breakout at 35, so I thought that the first red day on the gap down would work perfectly too, especially that massive overhead resistance that we had. But it just ripped right through it, and unfortunately I got caught. But I learned a great lesson, and I feel like my trading since this has been a lot better. And now to get into UAVS, when I talk about it here, it's just, oh my God, look at that candle. So amazing, guys. This was just a big time scam. Talking about drones and stuff, where it had a beautiful breakout, and then I kind of shorted it into the conference call. So let's kind of talk about this. So this day I didn't trade it too much. I actually took a couple scalp shorts here that I caught some nice lower high action. I shorted around here after this hard crack, and I covered into this dip. And then I shorted it again into the close here and covered into this dip. So I'd already kind of had a decent feel on the level 2 in the tape. And fortunately, I stayed away from this pre-market because I was up at 7 a.m. So I kind of get up early for pre-market. And, why am I going to short it here if all pre-market I had a chance to short it around here? So I stayed away from this insane squeeze. And then at the open is when I started dabbling a little bit. And I actually ended up taking some short at 5, which was the majority of my first profit on it. And I covered into... Let me just pull up a chart here, guys. Yeah, like I was saying, I dabbled a little bit here, but nothing too much. I was up like a couple $100 on it, and then I took a nice short at 5,000 shares and covered at 425. So got myself a nice cushion on it. I was up almost around 1,000 on the name. And then going into the conference call, I kind of knew that it had the potential for a big sell-off, because now the stock's up from 1 to 5 in basically 6 hours of trading. So going up about 100% every hour, which is just insane on average. And I started building into a short position after I saw this lower high fail and then another wash. And then once we started confirming to the VWAP as the top. Let me just throw a VWAP on here because I think that would make it a lot easier for you guys to see. So we're going to go to studies, Type in VWAP. Okay, so like I was saying, after this pop failed here, this is when I started building in short, just kind of dabbling a little bit, dabbling along the way, because I knew the conference call was at 11, and I wanted to push myself to take a big position on this one because I had a good read on the stock, and I was pretty confident that it was going to be a sell the news kind of scenario because the price action was confirming to me that it was weak. And I shorted a conference call on CYDY a couple of days ago, and I got squeezed out. So I was already going to be trading this super scared. So a lot of people asked me kind of what was my risk when I was scaling into this, and my risk was around this $4 level. And if it started holding over VWAP, or if it started squeezing up, if it squeezed right through 430, I would have had a bailed because that's kind of my GTFO level into strength. I wouldn't really care, but I would kind of see how it tested $4. My average was around 410. So I had a tight stop, guys. I had a tight stop and I had a cushion on the stock. So that's what gave me the ability to take size. And that's like what I was talking about in the beginning is, let the stock prove to you that it deserves the size. And I wasn't really planning on slamming this one size, but just as it got more and more ideal, I kept locating shares, and I slowly had built in. I think somewhere around here, I had like 2,000 or 3,000, and then once this kind of sell-off started happening, I was adding some, and I had about 4,000 here, and then it came up, and I kind of saw this downtrend breaking, and this is when the conference call started, so I scaled down into this dip here. But then once it failed and the pops are failing, then I scaled full size 7K shares right into this, and that gave me a 390 average, and I was going to risk this high here, so even if I stopped out, I still would have been green on the ticker, and that's what's key to me. And then very fortunately, we got this amazing dump, and I gave a nice little fist pump, and I was covering some. I covered some into this dump here just because I don't know how this is going to react. When a stock washes out this quickly, you need to pay yourself. And I paid myself. I covered 1,500 shares into this wash. And, I can always add that back into a bounce. So I love paying myself, and then I love adding back into a bounce once it's proven to me that the bounce is failing. And then fortunately, it got halted to the downside in volatility, and then I guess they couldn't find any bidders to take all the market orders that were coming through. As you can see, 5.8 million shares needed to be sold, and they couldn't find any bidders from $3 all the way down to $1.50. So I got lucky, and the stock opened up down 50%, and I covered my shares around this 120 area and locked in a huge profit of 16,000. And guess what? My risk was break even. So that's trading. You want to be risking break even to have a massive gain potentially. And that's really, my kind of style of trading is I don't like taking these wide stops with 1-to-1 risk reward. I like taking risk reward where I can make 35 R's on one trade, 35x what my average loss is on the month in one trade. And I was risking break even. Maybe I would have taken a loss in slippage, but I wouldn't have let my loss get out of control because I was already green on it, and I was so keen, and I already had proved to myself that I would stop out. I already took some off here. So it's all about just scaling at the right times and choosing the right risk levels and kind of knowing when, the conference call was coming up. So I knew that this is where it would have a large volatility around the conference call, and it could have very easily squeezed. I would have simply exited and waited because this would have been a massive trap. You know what I mean? Like this could have been a massive trap right here. If you look at the price action, it breaks under a little bit and it kind of starts to come back. But the conference call, obviously, they said that they were a scam. They said that, they're delivering drones out of their pickup truck and the company is just garbage, which most penny stocks are. That's why I like short selling, because most of these stocks are trash. That's just a fact of the nature. So that's what I got for you guys on those two charts. Um, and that's basically gonna do it for me. So I hope you guys can take something from this. Leave any questions below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys back here on the May recap. And like I said, my goals are just going to be to take Monday slower, not take a massive 5K loss, and really just focus on consistency. And, I'm allowed to dabble. I'm allowed to take a lot of trades as long as I keep my losses relatively small and I'm able to have big wins. And then removing the OT swizzle and not trading my NASDAQ longs as much because it's proven that it's nearly gambling because I'm hardly making any money on those setups. So I will see you guys later. Peace.